righty, how's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Ted Ray, we missed you Saturday, but hope everything's all right today.
Hi, yeah, I'd planned to miss Saturday for other reasons, but we ended up coming down with the stomach flu that's going around, and it hit our entire household.
Oh,
It was pretty nasty, but
well,
I missed you guys.
well, hope you all are feeling better. All righty, it's 7 o'clock. Let's see if we got everybody. Let's see, there's Heather. Graham. Graham, how's your child's tooth?
They ended up having to take it out.
Oh,
So, yeah,
was it a baby tooth?
it is. Luckily,
Oh,
it just came
okay.
out about 3 years too early.
Well, at least it's a baby tooth. So
Yep.
hopefully she's not in too much pain.
No, she's good. She's a trooper.
All righty. All right, Steven's there. I saw Brad. And Heather. All right, everybody's here. All righty. Aaron, are you here? You on? I'm sure you are.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Can you put the agenda up for us, please? And we'll
Of course.
get started. All righty. All righty. I'll kick off the meeting with invocation. If y'all please pray with me. Dear Lord, just thank you for this day you've given us, and thank you for the many blessings you've given the town of Stallings. Be with us tonight as we go about and do our business. Give us the wisdom and the courage to do what we think is right. Be with our men and women who protect us here in Stallings and all over the world. It's a trying time right now, and we certainly want to keep those soldiers that are headed to the Ukraine in our prayers and protect them. Put your armor around them and just protect them. And everything we do and say, we give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All righty. All right, ready? Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America,
and to the
the
republic
republic
for which it stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
All righty. Well, I'll call the meeting to order. And do we have any, first up is public comments. Do we have anybody on the call that's a member of the public that'd like to speak on any topic? If so, just raise your hand or let us know and we'll.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, who is this?
This is Robert Reagan.
Hey, Robert, how you doing?
Hey, doing okay? How y'all doing?
All righty.
Okay, yeah, I've got a brief comment. I just happened to notice today, this kind of discussing on the 3P intersection again. I know I brought up before putting in a no left turn sign when you're going, north toward Town Hall, I guess, on that road, whatever you call direction that is. I noticed that Wesley Chapel has put a no left turn on Wesley Chapel Road, turning onto Potter at the very end down their way. And it's just gone up in the last week. And it's, time limited, like 7 to 8 in the morning, because if you ever been in that way, it's difficult and it backs up through the intersection. Why can't we be looking at that at our intersection? On a time limited basis, to stop that backup from people trying to turn left onto Pleasant Plains from Potter. And that's all I've got. I know we've talked about it before, but I'd like you guys to revisit that.
Well, and it'll be DOT's call. They designed the intersection.
Well, somehow Wesley Chapel got a sign put down at the other end of Potter. I mean, we're only talking a couple miles away, the same exact concept there. So.
Well, I understand, but DOT, I'm sure, approved it and designed it, not
Okay.
Wesley Chapel.
Okay, yeah, but see, now you've got a precedence.
Yeah.
So
that sounds-
Really
yeah.
not supposed to have a back and forth, but I'm just saying this is what I saw today.
Yeah, Alex, if we could have Bo or somebody contact NCDOT and relay that information to them and see what their feedback is, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll email Alex a photo of that.
All right,
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Reagan.
all right. Anybody else? All righty, the consent agenda, we have the minutes from January 10th and a closed session of January 10th, January 24th, and January 31st, a special meeting. Does anybody have any changes or amendments to those minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve them?
I'll make the
ma-
motion to approve minutes.
All right. Motion by Ms. Grooms to approve all four. Can I get a second?
Second.
Nice.
I think that was Mr. Hall. All righty. And can I get Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember 1, Hall,
Aye.
District 2, Shoal,
Aye.
District 3, Drake,
Aye.
District 4, Grooms,
Aye.
District 5, Ayers,
Aye.
District 6, Richardson.
All right, motion passes. Next up is a report from the mayor. As I said yesterday, Taylor Ray and Graham, y'all weren't at the Saturday, but as I mentioned, now that the North Carolina budget's been passed, I've contacted Tony Lathrop, and he's the North Carolina DOT representative for this area, lives in Charlotte. Linda and I have met with him in the past and asked him, and Brett says, now that the budget's passed, where's the money to come into Stallings to help us with 3P? And I finally got an answer back from Brett today. It was a typical, I hate to, be negative, but it was just a typical bureaucratic email back to me that they're looking into it. They've been looking into it for a long time. So so I just want to let everybody know that I'm staying on, I'm going to keep pressing Tony Lathrop until he comes through with us. And then I copied Dean Arp and Todd Johnson as well. So just want to let everybody know what's going on. So let's see, report from council members. We'll start with Graham. You got anything for us?
No, sir, I don't have anything.
All right, David?
We had our first COG meeting of the year the other day, and it was lengthy, learned a lot of new things, and virtually met a lot of new members and Union County folks. So that's about it for that. Nothing substantial that affected the town yet.
All right, Heather?
I just wanted to thank Parks and Rec for getting signs up at Blair Mill Park.
Yeah, they look nice. Is that the signs that are permanent, temporary? Is that what we call them?
They're the temporary.
Okay.
At least they let people know that that's where the park is at.
Yeah, look fine.
And
All
who
right.
owns it?
Thank you, Heather. Taylor Ray, you got anything for us?
Nope, just piggybacking off of Heather with the signs. I've received several messages from people in the community, just that they appreciate them.
All right, thank you. All right, Stephen, you got anything for us?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. And Brad?
Just two quick things. One is similar to David. I attended my first CRTPO CARTPO meeting a month ago. I'll have another one tomorrow night. First meeting is learning all the acronyms. The second meeting, I think, is testing me to see if I know any of those acronyms. There's 1,000 of them. So in all seriousness, I'll have an update probably in our March meeting with a little more substance. But just to let you know, Mayor, since I'm your alternate, I did check in and attend, and I'll be there to Wednesday night.
Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday, not tomorrow. Second thing is just to let the council know, and I've shared this with Alex and Max, the town has been approached with a parcel of land on Chestnut Lane for possible annexation into the town. I met with the applicant at his request back in December, met with them again last week. And we'll be talking to staff a little bit more about it. So I'll give you more feedback as we go, but I didn't want to be meeting with developers without you knowing about it. And I know that Mr. Reagan is on the call as chair of our planning board. I would like to kind of bring Bob up to speed at some appropriate point as well. So I'll do that.
All right, Brad, thank you for your time on those meeting with the folks. So, all right, next up is a report from our town manager, Alex.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 3 reports, and then Ms. Nichols has a report and Ms. Platt says. First off, I wanted to thank everybody for their participation at the annual retreat. I found the discussion very thoughtful and productive. I'll be getting a report together, and we'll bring it back to the board in the near future for confirmation. The second item is I wanted to encourage the board, if you know anybody that might be a good fit to serve on the planning board, to please encourage them to apply. I know we have several folks whose terms are ending in March, at the end of March. And one of our requirements is that folks go to a planning board meeting prior to being appointed. So there's a timeline there. But again, if you know anybody that might be a good fit and be willing to serve, please encourage them to apply. Finally, last meeting, we discussed the demolition of the old 7-Eleven building off of Stallings Road, right by where it hits the bypass on the north side of the bypass. The council asked us to do a couple things. First, to get the price of leaving the pad in place and also leaving the asphalt in place. And the resulting cost was about $9,000. So I believe the lowest bid was about $11,500 before, went down to about $9,000 roughly. The second question was to see if the property owner would be willing to do a cost share. And we made contact with the property owner, and the property owner is not willing to do a cost share for the demolition of that building. So if anybody would like to revisit that issue, please just let me know and we can put it on a future agenda. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Nichols and then Ms. Platts. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Sewell. I just wanted to remind the council about an email that I sent you out about the waste collection pickup changes. Just wanted to note that and make sure you saw that email. In a nutshell, the town will be adding Fridays as a pickup day to our schedule. Today was the first day that residents were made aware that there would be a change coming in April. This doesn't happen until April. So today residents were made aware of that through their Waste Connect app, as well as on Waste Connection's Facebook page and website. The town will be mimicking that information tomorrow on our social media. And then, of course, the residents will be receiving a personalized postcard with their pickup day. So just wanted to let you know about the latest updates on that. And again, that doesn't start until April.
All right, Aaron, thank you for handling that. And
Good
then,
evening,
Ashley,
council.
are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Excellent. I'm coming to you tonight with some great news. The last 2 years, I believe we've given you an OSHA update at the beginning of the year for the previous year. And in the last 2 years, we did have a couple deficiencies in our OSHA reports with regards to a couple of our trainings. And I'm here to report to you tonight that in the past year, we had 0 recordable OSHA incidents. And that's a first for the town in the past 5 years. So I just wanted to report that to you, that we had 0 recordable OSHA incidents in the last year. And so that's quite an accomplishment for us. So we are continuing that. And I just want to give a huge shout out to the police department, to Public Works and Parks and Rec, because that's typically where some of our little minor incidents occur. And just to remind everyone that an OSHA recordable incident is anything that occurs that's above and beyond first aid. So we've done a great job in-house of handling, our safety and staying on top of that. So I just want to celebrate that accomplishment here at the town. and take a moment to share that with council.
All righty.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your leadership, Ashley. All righty, Chief Franks, it looks like you're on. Do you have anything for us tonight?
Sir, nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Oh, I did want to mention, I've got a couple of emails today about Stevens Mill and the repaving again. So for Taylor, Ray, Graham, Heather, and David on this side of town, I don't know what they were doing today. It looked like they were grinding some stuff. I didn't go out today, but somebody was telling me about it. They said they were doing something out there, delaying traffic both ways. So, DOT's putting some money in Stallings, and that's what I'm thankful for. They're repaving the road and whatever they have to do. I hate that it disrupts somebody's life, but that's the way it is when you're paving roads. So they're going to start doing the repaving at night once it gets warm. I don't know what warm means, but I would assume that's late March, early April. So just for FYI for y'all. All righty. Next up is our agenda approval. Does anybody have any additions or deletions they want to talk about on the agenda? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion by Mr. Shoal. Seconded by,
I'll
Steve?
second.
second by Mr. Ayers. All righty, he beat you to it, Heather. So Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. District 1 Hall,
Aye.
District 2 Shoal,
Yes.
District 3 Drake,
Yes.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Agenda approval. All right, next up is the number 4, the state grant funds. The state grant funds. So A, 1.6 million and B, 50K. And so I'll turn it over to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron, Mayor. Aaron, do you mind if I share my screen, please? Thank you. So several hours ago, I thought this was going to be more of a routine conversation. We've got a couple grants that we got in the state budget. One is for $1.6 million. We've discussed that one at length, and the second one is for $50,000. And the $1.6 million grant, the idea was, long story short, due to some riders that were added in the bill tax provisions, we couldn't use it directly for Potter and Pleasant Plains, but we were hoping to use it to reimburse ourselves for part of the purchase price for 2725 Old Monroe Road. The initial feedback we got most recently from the state was positive, but the town had not yet received final confirmation that we could do this. However, this afternoon we did receive final confirmation. It was not the confirmation that we wanted to hear. Essentially what they told us was that we could not use the funding to reimburse ourselves for the purchase price of 2725 Old Monroe Road. So this has the direct effect when it comes to the Potter Pleasant Plains project of not freeing up the equivalent amount of funds that could be applied locally to Potter Pleasant Plains. So we've got several options of how to move forward. And I'd like to kind of just show y'all visually what this kind of does to our budget that we looked at previously. So this is the budget that we looked at previously. And as y'all know, it's a complicated project. There are a lot of different funding sources and issues. But this is the important number, the bottom line, the potential out-of-pocket cost. And you can see before, when we were hoping that that 1.6 million would apply to the project, we're actually in the black, not including design costs and non-reimbursables. But what the state's determination does is it takes that out puts us the estimated cost. That's the potential town cost if we went forward today. So obviously that's a significant cost. So
Alex, we're losing you in and out there a little bit.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Can
All
you
right.
hear me now, sir?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay. So the bottom line is because we can't use that $1.6 million towards 2725 Old Monroe Road, we've got a hole in the budget. This is unfortunate, but not completely unanticipated. We know this could have been an issue. And so our options kind of moving forward are a couple things. First, we can try to seek a piece of legislation at the state level to kind of clarify this and allow us to use the money towards Potter and Pleasant Plains intersection project. My experience has been that getting local pieces of legislation is often difficult. For example, the occupancy tax bill, we've been trying to get that for probably over 4 years past now, and hasn't really gone anywhere. But although it's difficult in my experience, it's not impossible. It can get done, and a lot of it is probably subject matter dependent. If we did that, that would solve the issue in one fell swoop, right? But it could take a while to get done. The second option is we could try to get the funding, plug that $1.6 million hole another way, and identify another use for the 1.6 million. Upon my review of the town CIP, I don't see much that would be eligible that we could apply it for. You might say, Alex, well, we've got some stuff coming up. You know, why couldn't we use it for that? Well, the capital improvements definition of the state is pretty high. It's got to be over $100,000. It's got to be on something owned by, on property owned by the town. So, for example, a police car wouldn't apply. The gateway monument signage, that would not apply because it's not on town property. The only thing that I could see that's planned would be potentially the Vickery Blair Mill Park project. But again, a big chunk of that cost is for the Hawk Beacon, and that's not on town property. It's an NCDOT right away. So there's just not enough to move the needle there from a planned project standpoint. So, but that also, you know, with every frustration, that's also an opportunity. You know, perhaps there's something with downtown development we could do as we move towards trying to do some sort of public-private partnership to try to spur the kind of develop that we do want. Also in the front of getting the money from other sources. I'm seeking to meet with DOT later this week. I was going to do it tomorrow anyway, just as a cursory review of our budget. But I think now it takes on a bigger role, and we can press them. And they've offered in the past to try to help us find some more funding on their end to try to plug the gap. So it's not the immediate answer that we were hoping for, but in the past several months, NCDOT has been pretty optimistic that there may be some other funding we might be able to come up with, and perhaps even some funding that would help cover, you know, over costs that run over if that were to occur. So in that sense, that's what I'm going to be doing, is kind of working with DOT to try to identify some further funds. I'm sorry, I wish I had better news, but I think that's where we're at, and we'll continue to kind of work for it. I welcome any questions, any feedback, any concerns, and any ideas you have on this one before we move on to the next issue. Thank you.
And as I said earlier, you know, this dovetails in with what the letter I've sent to Tony Lathrop, and you know, this what are they going to do to help us? And so, to me, I don't think we do anything more on this project until we get the definite answers from the state. You know, Alex is meeting with you know, the DOT folks. We need to meet with Lathrop again. But as we said Saturday, we've already spent $750,000 on town money on this project. And if we keep spending more and not get reimbursed, it's way over the 400,000 that we anticipated back in 2013. So my recommendation is we stop all spending on this right now until we get some clarification from DOT on how they're going to help us.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor,
question.
Yes, Stephen.
I was just gonna, obviously, we've had a lot of citizen involvement in this. Would it be kosher to open that door for the citizens to engage with Mr. Latham to potentially perk his ears?
Well, sure. He works for us, them, everybody. So
Okay.
whatever he's getting paid is tax money. So I'll send you his, I don't know if his email is readily available, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And then,
Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
That's right. Thanks, Steve. Good question or good comment. 3 things real quick. Alex, first, could you in just a moment remind me and everybody the definition of what that money can now be used for, now that we know it can't be used for what we requested it for? Secondly, strange idea, but I don't think it was mine originally, but what is the opportunity, pros and cons and feasibility of taking ownership of that intersection for a 2-year time period or something like that? Don't want to do it. Would be that very last resort. And I agree with you, Mayor, of course, but if we can use it for town-owned property, can we own it for a year or 2? And the final thing, just a comment back to Mr. Reagan's earlier point, this I think then puts more of an emphasis on traffic management in the interim if we're going to pause all work. So my 3 comments, and only one needed an answer, and that was just the definition, Alex.
Pull this up. This is the definition of capital improvements. And you can see.
We're losing you, Alex. Yeah.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I apologize for that. So you can see this is the statutory definition of capital improvements. And you can read it here together with me. A term that includes a real property acquisition, new construction or rehab of existing facilities, and repairs and renovations over $100,000 in value. So we may look at that and say, well, hey, why couldn't our purchase of 2725 Old Monroe Road be used for this? That is a real property acquisition, right? The answer is yes, but the language that the Senate added in there that keeps jumping up and biting us is it's got to be something that's being spent on property that's exclusively owned by the town. So that's the limiting factor on us there.
Who else owns it?
I'm trying to get clarification on the exact kind of thought process and text, but what I believe they're saying is that at the time we were buying it, it wasn't owned by us. If we had already owned the land and we were doing improvements on it, that would have been different. But because of the rider language on there, they're saying basically when you were spending the money, you didn't own it, and it was only after you spent the money where you owned it. So I believe that's their.
So we got about a 3-week gap because we bought it when we bought it, and it got signed 3 years. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later. We're going to get penalized.
I don't think the issue is the time. Excuse me, the time it was. That we bought it prior to going through this application process. I think it's just real property acquisition in general here, because we didn't own it when we were in the process of buying it, and we spent the money, and only after we spent the money did it become ours.
That's what I meant, that the bill got signed 3 weeks after we bought the property.
No,
I'm
I don't
confused
think,
there because, I mean, that means that statement would never make any sense because, I mean, you don't own anything before you own it. I mean, that's kind of counterintuitive.
I was fixing to say the same thing, Stephen. The real property acquisition, you don't buy something you already own.
Yeah.
So
No.
it is confusing, and we need to get clarification from DOT. And
Is there grounds to go above this guy's ruling, this person's ruling, Alex?
Potentially, that was my next step. So this afternoon, I called the individual who had gotten back with me and also sent them an email. When I called them, they said they were going to be out of the office this week. It may be that they were just, working from home. That's what they meant, and not on vacation, since they sent me this email. But I followed up with other contacts there for further clarification. So that was one of the questions I asked, is further understanding of, given this is a real property acquisition and we own the property now, why is this not allowable use? Explain that to us. So,
And we're the size that, I mean, again, this comes back to our financial conversation where we can absorb the this interpretation because, Mayor, thanks to you, we are very financially solvent. I mean, if this was any other town, except for maybe 3 or 4 towns in Union County, this would bankrupt them if they made that decision. I guess my other thought here, Alex, would be push the we're a small town. 1.6 million is non-trivial to us. We're not Charlotte. And see if that might also bring a little bit of clarity to the situation. Because I mean, if this was Weddington, it would devastate them financially for years. So I don't know. I would just say that maybe there's some potential to appeal to their desire to not make a financial burden on the town.
And we've talked to Dean office about this. So obviously, I don't know if they were made aware of it, but I'll give him and Todd Johnson a call tomorrow and say, hey, here's the definition of capital improvement. And it's pretty common sense that we're not going to buy something that we already own. So why do you have that sentence in there? So
I think talking to Todd's probably going to be more beneficial because the restriction originated on the Senate side.
Yeah.
Alex, I had one question.
Sure.
Is there a deadline on spending the 1.6?
That was one of the questions that I asked them when I inquired today. I don't yet have that information. In the email that was sent to us this afternoon, they indicated that the funds don't revert, which you could read into that, hey, there's not a deadline to spend it. But I want to get further clarification on that before we move forward.
Alex, I
Thank
have
you.
a question.
Yes, sir.
So what about, can you apply it almost like retroactively? So if you have debt on your books for a new construction project that you recently did, i.e. the town hall, can you use the 1.6 to pay down that debt?
That's one of the questions I asked in my email to them. If we could do that, that would be great. So perhaps we still have, if they would allow us to do that, that'd be great. I believe we finished that construction around the beginning of 2020. That was prior to the state law and bill being signed. And the question I've asked them is, hey, we have over 1.6 million in debt service remaining on that building. Can we apply this towards that? Because the town hall or the government center and the public works facility, they were constructed on property that the town already owns. So if the timing issue, meaning if the work already being done and was done prior to the budget being signed isn't an issue, then I do think it would qualify, presuming debt service can be an allowed use. But I had the same thought. We've inquired about that, and we'll wait and see what they say.
And one more follow-up. So is the $100,000, does that have to be all at once, or could you try and say, like if we were working on one of our parks and it takes a whole year, you have a lot of stuff that you go on during the year, you're improving it in whole, but and it comes up to 100,000, but it's not just one item that you're doing. Could you do it that way?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Miss Gross, putting you on the spot. It's okay if you don't know, but do you know the answer to that, ma'am?
No, I do not.
Okay.
All righty. Well, we got a couple of action items here, but then let's go back to what we talked about Saturday, the ARP funds. Can we use that for intersection improvement?
Initially, the determination was no. Ms. Nichols is kind of working through that and going to work towards figuring out if we can do that. We had a plan that we were prepared to bring to y'all, and then the determination that the feds made about loosening up the restrictions kind of changed everything. So we're having to rework through everything. But certainly that's something we'll look into as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, just to clarify, when you said the initial from Miss Nichols was a no, that was before the flexibility that seems to indicate that it can be used for infrastructure. Okay, just to clarify.
That's right.
Nothing's
Yes, sir.
changed since Saturday. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's right.
All righty. Well, so the action items I hear are, Alex is meeting with DOT. I'll continue to communicate with Tony Lathrop. I'll send Tony Lathrop's email to Stephen to disseminate as he sees fit. And then Alex and Aaron will continue to working on the ARP funds to see if, what we can spend that on. All right. Also, we'll get the deadline on the spending the 1.6 million, and then ask about, and then Alex has already asked that, and he's already asked about paying down the debt. So, all righty. Well, we got some plans here. Hopefully something will win. Something will go our way. So.
Yes, sir. If there are no further questions or comments, thank you for that summary, Mayor. I'm going to move on to the next grant, which hopefully will be a simple conversation.
Yeah, anybody else have any questions on the 1.6? All right, go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, sir. So this next grant was unexpected. It was a bit of a pleasant surprise. We received $50,000 in the state budget, and the language says it's for improvements including wayfinding, signage, and economic development. So fairly broad. I mean, economic development, there's an argument that encompasses a lot. So the deadline to submit the proposal is the 17th. And so given the quick turnaround time for submission and the most recent 5-year financial forecast and just inflationary impacts that we're going to see budget times, I think staff would suggest that we use the $50,000 towards an already anticipated project, such as the reimbursement for purchase of 2725 Old Monroe Road. That's a typo there, I apologize. Or the DFI Phase 1 Downtown District Feasibility Assessment. I would probably propose out of all those to count it towards the second one. After our conversation Saturday, it sounds like we're moving towards doing that. But welcome any feedback, comments, questions, and then would ask for council direction on that one.
I agree with Alex on spending it on the DFI.
Concur.
I'm good with that.
All right, I heard a consensus from Brad and David. Was that right, David?
Yes, yes.
I agree too.
All right, Heather.
Sounds good.
All right, Stephen. All right, I know Brad and Taylor Ray, y'all weren't in this discussion, but please ask any questions to that you want an answer to, so we can make y'all feel comfortable on spending $50,000.
Just real quick, what will be the cost of the gateway signage?
I've asked for a clarification number from our engineers earlier today. I'm waiting for that. I don't recall off the top of my head, but I know, I want to say it was over 200,000, maybe 300,000, somewhere in there. But that's just, let me look into that and I'll follow up and get it to you. It was a big number though.
Okay, and I just wanted to go back. So what's the requirement?
Sure. The requirement is right there.
So, I mean, my only point contention would be, we know for a fact that the gateway signage would meet wayfinding signage, and DFI, that's a little bit more of an argument, because there's no, DFI is downtown development, right? And it's not necessarily economic development. It's a good argument that you can make, but my point would be, I think that wayfinding signage and gateway, that would line up, right? Like, there's no argument against it.
Mr. All, you raised really good points. I think a lot of this is going to be, they won't tell you what it's allowed before you got to submit a proposal, and then they'll tell you, right? Yes or no. It's not that informal. I think you could argue, like a gateway signage, that's not wayfinding signage. Wayfinding signage could be like, go this way to downtown, go this way to the hospital, go this way to the playground, that kind of thing. Whereas the monument sign is more like a placemaking gateway, giant logo basically of the town lit up. So I think there could be an argument. I wouldn't make that argument. But I think you could argue it either way. I think the economic development thing, our economic development plan has as one of the action items downtown development. So that was my thinking there, is why downtown development is related to economic development. But certainly the state could come back and say, that doesn't work. If they do that, then we would have to just circle back around and have the conversation again. How does that strike you, Graham?
I'm good with that, and I'm good with DFI then, because I would suspect that maybe they say it in their own website or their own brochure about economic development. I'd hope they do.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, well, thank you. Good thoughts, though. I don't disagree with your observation there.
All right, Taylor Ray, any questions or concerns?
No, no.
All right, well, it looks like we have a consensus to go with the DFI, Alex.
Okay, great. We'll do that. And if they say no, we'll be back.
We'll punt. All right.
Alex, how soon do you hear back from them?
I would think we'll hear back in February, Ms. Drake. I think this is not a grant where we had to like apply to it, right? It was kind of like a legislative pork kind of allocation kind of thing. So I think they're just trying to have some sort of process to make sure everything is proper and recorded. So I would think we should have an answer in February.
All righty. Thank you, Alex, council, for that. All right, let's move on to number 5, the council room electronic meeting capabilities.
Mayor and council, I wanted just to entertain any questions you had about the virtual meeting options. As you saw from the memo in your packet, we do have several different costs associated if you want to make those spaces virtual meeting capable. I will bring your attention to the timeline. Unfortunately, due with supplies and the current state of applies, it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 months before we get the actual equipment in. And we did also want to point out, per our attorney, that at this time, there's no state legislature that allows for virtual meetings once a state of emergency is lifted. Now, that could change. There's just nothing clear at this time for that. So we wanted to know the council's pleasure for making those rooms virtually capable.
So on the money part, Aaron, can we go back up to that?
Yes, sir.
There we go. The $4,400, what would we get?
So what that includes, it would make the entire council chambers as if we could have Zoom, let's say, since we use that platform, we could have Zoom on the screens in the council chambers. So in other words, someone could participate from anywhere while the rest of the people were in the room. And just as we're looking now here on your laptop or your tablet or your computer, that's what you would see on the large monitors in the council chambers.
Right. Okay. And then, of course, just the 5,900 is expanded into the conference room.
Yes, sir. We wanted to make sure we got a quote for that to make sure that those capabilities were in there as well, should the council need to go in there for closed session.
Right. And so the only other, and then I saw y'all's note at the bottom here, is, so we do have language in our ordinances now that somebody can call in remotely. If we don't have, if we don't spend the money, they can still call in remotely.
Well, right now, and I'll defer to Ms. Cox if she has any further clarification, but right now, it's either a virtual meeting, whether that's a phone or a video, or it's an in-person meeting. So however we allow let's say a council member to participate, we would also have to allow the public to participate in that same manner. Regardless of who we would have to allow anyone to participate in the same manner that we're allowing a council person to participate.
Right, just like we're doing now.
Correct. But it becomes a little bit more complicated just with telephone.
So, yeah, so my question, Melanie, is do we have the language in place that somebody can call in? If we're meeting in person, then a council member needs to call in, and by phone, do we have that language in our ordinances?
Our ordinance follows and tracks the language of the statute specifically. And right now, the way the statute's written and our ordinance is written is once one member uses what's called simultaneous communication, whether that's video or telephone, then it becomes a remote meeting. And so once it becomes a remote meeting, we have to follow the remote meeting laws in terms of the way we advertise the meeting, roll call for votes, you have to make sure you can see and hear everyone at the same time. So as long if one member is participating remotely, then it becomes a remote meeting. There's not a definition or an allowance in the statute or our ordinance for a hybrid. I think other jurisdictions have been using hybrid, but they still follow the remote meeting rules in that hybrid meeting.
Right, and I understand that. I mean, that the part about it becomes a remote meeting. We've been doing that for 2 years, but so I want to know, so we can do the hybrid then just by calling in by phone, and they can follow along on the agenda on their own computer that Aaron sends out every week.
Right, but if we do that, then the public has to have the opportunity to be able to listen in and follow remotely as well.
Okay, well, I mean, and then we give them the phone number just like we, post a phone number now. I don't see any reason. Well, to me, that's not a obstacle.
Well, Mayor, the room would still have to be outfitted. At this time, there is no phone line to that room. And you couldn't just have a regular phone line because that would not allow for multiple people to phone in. So you would still have to have remote meeting capabilities that are quoted here in order for people, even if they just wanted to phone in. A regular phone line would not be suitable for multiple people to phone in.
Why would they need a direct line phone in when the Zoom has a phone and capability anyway?
Oh, certainly. Now, if you want to outfit the room for virtual meeting capabilities, yes, absolutely. I just wanted to make it clear. It was not a regular phone line that does that. We would have to outfit the room with the quote that's with something like that's presented here.
Oh, I got you. But the thing of it is, to me, is the whole idea of having virtual and remote meetings is temporary. And as soon as the governor lifts the emergency, we're back to the standard law that says you meet in person, period. Isn't that correct, Melanie?
That's my reading of it. There are, some attorneys that think that this legislation is probably going to be carried on, or perhaps new legislation will be written that allows this to continue. But as of now, that's correct.
Well, we've been talking about this for a while, and nothing has come up except now, Taylor Ray is coming into a high-risk pregnancy, and she may not be able to make a lot of meetings in person. And I don't want to speak for her. She can certainly speak for herself. But that's so now we have a council member that it might apply to, and so that's why we've asked Aaron to do this investigation in the cost and things like that. So Taylor, I don't know if you want to add anything, but that's what I've gathered.
Yeah, so we are scheduled to do an embryo transfer on March 15th. And with COVID and just the climate being the way that it is highly recommended that I stay quarantined for a short period of time. And then around my due date is a very sensitive time as well. And then, of course, I'm not sure what maternity leave is like on town council. We'll have to review that when that time comes. But I would still participate, even though I just had a baby. If I could do it virtually, it would take nothing to sit here and participate in a meeting. So that's why I brought it up to Alex's attention to see if this would even be a possibility for me to still participate, just so that I didn't have to omit myself during that time, because I'm not really sure how long this will put me out.
All righty. Thank you, Taylor Ray. So anybody have any questions, concerns?
Hearing that, Mayor, I was sort of in the camp with David of why would we do this? And I asked Alex today, does this give the staff and council any flexibility? And I think the answer is obviously yes for future. Hearing Taylor describe sort of her next 6 months, 9 months, I don't know the details. I'm more inclined to do this. I also pointed out to Alex today, good or bad, if we're doing a remote meeting with Taylor Ray remote, or any of us, frankly, remote, it then allows citizens greater access to our meetings. If I understand correctly, it then becomes a virtual meeting. 4, 5, 6 of us are sitting in the dais, but one of us is out. That means citizens can have a Zoom call into the meeting and participate in a broader way. Good or bad, that's better access to the public, even though. So I was not going to support this, but if there's consensus, I'd be inclined, and I would point out that you could use the 1.6 million for this. I'm smiling as I say that.
I didn't even think about that.
Because it's property that the town owns.
Yep.
And I pulled up the state.
100,000.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
Oh, it has to be over 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't need that nice a TV.
I'm in favor of it, but I'm still concerned that when the governor, if the legislation has to come forward out of this term, and I'm pretty sure the governor will probably rescind, or not rescind, whatever the word is, take back his emergency powers this spring. that this is going to be, and well, I mean, I empathize and I'm willing to do it if it makes sense, but I don't think we're going to be allowed to do it. A remote meeting. I hope we can, but I don't know that we can. Melanie, you've heard from other attorneys. How is there such dissenting, opposing points of view on that? And what would it take to get a definitive answer?
That's a good question. I mean, when I read the statute, it's very, very clear that you can only do this when it's a declaration of an emergency. And it's very specific on how we can have the remote meetings, what is, all the steps you have to go through, what it entails, how you take votes. So I don't know how you could read this and argue that we could have done it beforehand. I just don't see it. And I don't think that's a winning argument. I think the trend is that, legislation could come out of this allowing towns to do it when they desire and deem fit, and not just in a state of emergency, but absent that legislation, we can only do what the state tells us we can do.
Well, now then I'm gonna ask David, maybe you know the answer to this. Back when Richard, back when a school board member was out of town for working for.
Yeah, I remember that.
For
I
a
helped
long
set
period.
that up.
Yeah, for a long period of time, he was allowed to remote in. And
Yeah.
I don't know, this was 10 years ago.
All I can think of is it was different circumstances and different law was regulating it at the time. And it was okay by our school board attorney, but we sure didn't have the hoops to jump through for, not hoops, just the open access for other citizens to also participate, which it sounds like we would have to do with this one. I mean, Richard was the only person remote in our school board meetings. No citizens participation remotely ever. So it was a different circumstances and different set of something was different about the law at that point, and possibly even at the level of school board versus a municipality. I'm not sure what the legality was.
Yeah.
And it could be too that there was just never a legal challenge.
Yeah.
One of the other things is that, I mean, even over the last couple of years, one of the things that we've been able to do is bring in a more timely manner, specialized subject matter experts. And it seems like, I mean, I'm kind of just twisting a different route here. I mean, say, for example, when we brought in Greg for buying the John Deere dealership, I mean, he was able to join virtually and kind of give us information and not necessarily have to be in the room with it, within a particular meeting. So, I mean, I kind of like the fact that it gives us flexibility to get connections to other organizations in a more timely fashion and over a broader spectrum. They don't have to drive to Stallings anymore. They can call up and be in part. We could all be there in the room, but we could have a subject matter expert about a particular topic or subject be able to call in and give a presentation through our online meeting. And in some ways be able to work, because then that could broaden we could have somebody from Virginia or South Carolina come in and do that, not necessarily limited to somebody who can drive to our meetings. So that was just one of the other things that I saw that this would open the door for, is just a broader spectrum of subject matter experts in a more timely manner, because obviously it's a lot easier to dial into a Zoom call than to make the drive to Stallings. So anyway, that was my 2 cents.
That's a great point. And then I'd also point, Mayor, that the GC conference room behind the chambers, I'm not sure that we would need that as much as you need the council chambers. So,
well, also
cut the cost in half by just
it wouldn't just apply to Taylor Ray if one of us is out of town and want to do
right,
or Melanie or Alex, anybody. So
no, I'm going to use it as an excuse not to come to the meeting if I'm out of town.
Is this something we might want to take up with our legislators and put on the hot list that we would like them to put the legislation in place this short session?
Well, reacting to Aaron's message about supply chain, I think we need to move on it tonight, one way or the other.
Oh, no, I mean, but to make.
Oh, yeah.
We'll move on it, but I think maybe we need to also push them along to, this is an opportunity to broaden the scope of access to government, our citizens accessing us and vice versa.
Well, I think it is. Technology has changed, and we're living in different times than we were 10 years ago. So that when y'all did it on the school board, so certainly we can have that discussion with Dean and Todd. Let them carry the ball for us. So roll back up to the numbers there, if you would, please, Aaron. All right, so it's $4,400, and can I get a motion on what the council wants to do?
Mayor, I'd be okay with doing the council chambers. Again, it's not a huge amount of money. And I think it gives us flexibility.
All right, motion by Mrs. Richardson. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Grooms. And Aaron, could you do a roll call, please?
No, that was Taylor Ray.
Oh, who'd I say?
Heather.
Oh, yeah, they're right beside each other. They look alike. All right, second by Ms. Drake.
Yes, sir. For the vote, District 1 Hall,
Yay.
District 2 Shoal,
Yes.
District 3 Drake,
Yes.
District 4 Grooms,
Aye.
District 5 Ayers,
Aye.
District 6 Richardson.
I heard the sniff, but was that a yes?
Wait for me. I'm sorry. Aye.
All right, okay. All right, the ayes have it. All
Thank
right.
you, Mayor. And I just like to remind everybody, we will get this to the vendor right away so they can get started right away. But we would not be able to hold anything in the council chambers and have anybody remote in until this was installed, because we do not have that capability right now.
All right, just keep us informed on the timeline.
Will do.
All righty.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
All righty, anything else? We're to the adjournment.
I do have one quick thing. So isn't there a like a lobby group for municipals in the state of North Carolina? I feel like I get emails from some group.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
League of Municipalities.
Okay. Can we reach out to them and see if they've put anything forward? I can't believe we're the only town that would be wanting this.
That's a good
And
point.
it's very logical, right? I mean, this is the future.
Oh, Alex, absolutely. We'll follow up with the North Carolina League of Municipalities, see if this is something they're pushing.
All right, good point. Thank you, Graham. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So
I move to adjourn.
All right, motion by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. Hall. All in favor, say aye.
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 All righty, thank you all for your work.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Take it easy,
Happy
guys.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you all too.
Thank you.